are so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. It'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burnin' Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy Monday. If you're subscribed on Spotify Premium or Patreon, it'll be Sunday you'll be hearing this. But anyways, hope you had a good weekend. Staying hydrated. It is fucking hot today. Real hot. Kind of one of those days where you just want to avoid going outside, if at all possible. It kind of reminds me a lot of this topic I'm going to talk about today. Had several people request it, and I've been kind of avoiding it, if at all possible. And I guess it is possible, but I figure I got another person that kind of asked about it the other day, and figure might as well nut up, give the people what they want. So, been asked to talk about mental health. Mental health, particularly in men. And, well, like I say, I've been avoiding it because I talk about mental illness quite a bit, mostly making fun of it. And that's all well and good. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with it if you're doing it. You know, if you're just trying to make people laugh, I really don't see much wrong with it. Even making fun of you know, like retarded kids. You know, as long as you're not doing it coming from a mean place, if you're just trying to get laughs, I don't see much harm in that. But the part I've been avoiding is the serious aspect of it, and been avoiding it because I don't know how qualified I am, if at all, to speak on this. But like I said, you get enough people ask you to do something, you might as well give her a go, I guess. So I'd probably be a rambler, and I doubt it'd be all that funny, and which I don't know. I guess probably not supposed to. So we'll see where we go from here. But I know before I moved out here to Nevada, so a little over 5 years ago, my wife and her sister were extension agents for Kansas State University there in Hamilton County where we lived, and they both ran the extension office. And one of the things that Jennifer, my sister-in-law, was involved with pretty heavily was, or at least that was mentioned in like her area of work of the extension, was suicides among farmers and ranchers, particularly younger men, and how that has, you know, skyrocketed over the last like 10-20 years. And then I'm just kind of going off of my, you know, audience demographic. So that applies to a lot of you fellas that listen. I found out on my Spotify statistics, I'm at like 81% men. So damn near every one of you that listen is a dude. There are some ladies, and shout out to you girls. I don't know how much this episode will do you for, but you're welcome to stick around and listen anyhow. But I'm not going to offer any real advice or insight onto a woman's point of view or state of mind, because that's a can of worms you don't want to open. I just don't care to do that. So we'll talk about the fellas. But so 81% men, according to Spotify, which is about 15% of my overall audience. They extrapolate that. It's either way. It's about 80% men, and a big chunk of them in the 18 to 45-year-old range. So that's the audience. So that puts just about 80% of you. Well, about 80% of the 80%. So quite a large chunk of the audience that puts you in that category of rural, younger men who's, as I said, the suicide rate has skyrocketed. And then the rest of my audience, we have a lot of veterans, or I don't know how many active duty. If you are active duty, send me a message or anything. Shout out. Keep your head down. Stay safe. Probably cover your butthole and learn your pronouns in today's military. But anyway, if you're active duty, shoot me a message. I'll say what's up. But a lot of veterans, and the veteran suicide rate is, I think, probably in like the highest subcategory, the highest rating percentage, whatever, per subcategory would be male military veterans, particularly those that have seen combat, come back with a ton of mental health issues, and a lot of those veterans come from rural areas. They're good old boys like me and you, and they're not getting the care they need. The men that are struggling with well, let's face it, it's fucking tough to be a guy in today's day and age, and it's tough to be in the agriculture industry. It's possibly the most vital line of work that a person could be in, because you're literally growing the stuff that keeps the human race alive, growing food. And at the same time, you are one of the most villainized subgroups of people in the country. Either agriculture or even military veterans. Same thing. More and more, you're getting listed in the category of domestic terrorist or domestic extremists, and usually lumped in with the handle or moniker of white supremacist or white nationalist or some sort of racist, and whatever the adjective of the day is for the current progressive regime. You'll get lumped into that as well, and that of course, that I'm sure just does wonders for a fella's psyche and mental well-being. Just constantly being classified as a terrorist or extremist or racist, usually without any evidence of such. But just for simply having your opinions and having the fucking nerve to, try to feed people, or well, Karen's a little testy. But either trying to feed people or serve your country. And because of those things, you're put into this lower class of people. And then men in general have just been stigmatized. My entire lifetime. Like, you look at the shows that we loved growing up, and they always portrays the dad as the bumbling idiot. He's kind of funny, he's endearing, means well, but he's just kind of an idiot. And a lot of times that's right. All comedy is based off of some form of truth, but it was widely exaggerated and in a way diminish the role of the father, the man of the household, which, if you look at authoritarian societies, that's kind of what they do, is they strip away the individual, and you just become part of just another cog in the machine. indistinguishable from the others. And back in the Soviet Soviet Union, there became very little differentiation between men and women. It wasn't in the way that we see it today, where you can be whatever you identify to be. No, it was just where you're simply like a name or a number in Soviet society, and the matter of your genitals was only considered in the form of reproduction, and it was more of a very like logical based deal. Like what are you good at? Oh, you're a man, you're male, so you're bigger and stronger, so you're gonna go to the military or whatever. But as far as overall, like, it was just they were just the the workers of the world. That's how they were distinguished. They're very much a commodity type product, just uniform, no differentiation, and then that included sex and gender. Well, and now we have it here where it's along the same lines, but far more like on a sinister level, where you just like the men are demonized, and it's patriarchy and male privilege and mansplaining. And I really do enjoy the mansplaining one, especially when what are they shooting? Wonder if they shot at that coyote I saw earlier. Didn't have my rifle with me. And anyway, you're always kind of constantly bombarded by these things, and then even like your traditional kind of male hero figures, whether it be military guys or sports heroes or whatever, and they become more and more movie stars and rock stars and musicians, whatever. This like the guys that the guys typically used to look up to. Now they've become down on men, and it's all about uplifting women, which I'm not against for the most part. But after a while, if you're a guy, you just get kind of feeling run down, dragged through the mud, because you kind of have been. And what are you supposed to do? Well, yeah, buck the fuck up and soldier on, right? You put it on your shoulders and you keep on going. But what happens when you just can't carry that shit anymore? Well, something happens, and it usually ain't good. And then, you hear story after story of either somebody snaps and shoots themselves, or they shoot somebody else, or like I said, it turns out bad. And then you always hear about the warning signs that everybody wish they would have seen earlier, or wish they would have seen at the time, and nobody ever seems to do it, and nobody ever seems to go out of their way to talk to anybody, and it becomes just a perpetual cycle. So you have this cycle of it just gets compounded generation after generation, year after year, where the guy gets beat down in popular culture. The dad gets diminished as a role. Because of that, more families break up. The father's less in the kid's life than they ever have been. And then you can look at different communities. Like I would imagine I don't have a huge black audience, but I know there's a few black fellows out there. But you look at the black community and the fatherlessness rate there, and how that just spins into a cycle of just trauma and violence. And it's not much different in rural areas. Like how many kids that are taking care of their siblings because the dad's out of the picture, and the mom's working 2-3 jobs just trying to keep food on the table. And so there's also no wonder why the women get get a lot of the attention and the praise. I mean, because they've been doing the work that the men are supposed to be doing, but at the same time, they act like women aren't supposed to want the men to do any of that. That's a strong independent woman argument and all that, and you're just like, well, how do you win? How do you win on that deal? Like, and then on top of all that, not only do you look bad because of the bullshit that the media and whatnot and all the feminists and the crazies put out there, but you're trying to make ends meet financially, and despite what the current definition of recession is, we're in a recession, and the economy is in the shitter. We're in the middle of a bad drought, real bad drought. You have more and more family farms and ranches going under by the year. I mean, just so much farmland has been gobbled up by billionaires and these conglomerates that now are controlling our food supply, and that you're just trying to keep the family farm alive. You're trying to keep the old family outfit running. It's been around for several generations, and you don't want to be you can't be the one breaking that breaks that lineage. Like that's a lot of weight on your shoulders. At the same time, how do you make ends meet without going crawling to the government for a handout? Because it seems, the lesson we all learned as we were growing up, like the harder you work, the more good things come to you, but you work your ass off, and you're trying to work smarter and harder all at the same time, because that's what it takes. And you don't want to just be working hard to work hard. You want to see some sort of benefit and reward at the end, come to fruition after all that hard work and toil and labor and blood, sweat, and tears. And you're not supposed to have those tears either, because that makes you a pussy. But you can't even say that anymore, because that's not politically correct. That'll offend some purple-haired freak with a dick in Portland that identifies as somebody with a pussy, and you got to take their feelings as you got to realize their truth and their lived experience, and how your words have caused violence upon their household or whatever now. And so you got that to contend with, and but don't cry about it or you're a pussy. But you can't say pussy, because Wilhelmina up in Portland's gonna be real pissed off, and Wilhelmina turns into Karen real quick. Like, even though the most of the required equipment, i.e. uterus, ovaries, and all the associated hormones that go with being a biological woman, they, despite the lack of that, I think it's the purple hair dye that gives you a little boost of the Karen hormones. I'm not sure which exact female hormone that is that puts you into the Karen mode, but I think they must have somehow formulated that into like the purple and the blue and the pink hair dyes that all these people are using nowadays, and they're able to reach in and just harness the energy of that toxic feminism and the toxic identity culture, whether it be sexual or gender or racial, whatever. You got to have the categories, and us straight white guys just don't fit in anywhere except in the bad guy role. So we have to accept our role as the bad guy, but not fulfill the role of bad guy. You're always going to be the bad guy, but you can't actually act on it. So you get to be the bad guy without any of the benefit of actually being the bad guy. And if it sounds like a raw deal, I mean, it kind of is. But you're a man, suck it the fuck up, get on with it, shove it down deep, address that some other time when you don't want to. Usually when you're in a small argument with your wife, and that, for whatever reason, brings up some old issues, and you pipe off something stupid that you probably shouldn't have said, and you don't really mean, but it sure sounded like it at the time when you said it. And so don't cry because you're a pussy. But also, like, you want to talk to somebody about it, and how do you talk to somebody without just sounding like you're being a whiny little bitch? And and we've seen all those people that how it gets when a man takes the sharing too far, and then they become like a male feminist or something, or like a trans ally, and then they share everything, and then they're also offended by everything. So like, and then they have to share about how they're offended by everything, but what they're offended by, like, is nothing. But you have to accept their lived experience, so that has to be counted as real. But you don't get to comment on it because you're not an ally. Those dudes over there, they're acting like a bitchy little cunt. Those are allies, and we can't speak ill of those. And they've accepted that they're a monster as a white man, but they're paying their penance for it by being weak little bitches, I guess. And but that's also, you can't say that either, because that'll offend the other green-haired dude with hormone-laced hair dye. You ever wonder why, like, the trans thing has, like, shot to the forefront of things? It's weird. But it's also funny how how many hormones they got to be on, how you got to be on them for life if you want to maintain your transition. That's a pretty sweet gig for the pharmaceutical companies, like, for them just to exist in the way they want to exist, they've got to pump themselves full of all these hormones and treatments. And so, I mean, that's neat. And no way that a pharmaceutical drug could be bad for you and cause addiction problems and stuff down the line. And no way that good old Uncle Sam, after sending our brave boys and girls over to fight in these wars that don't seem to make a lot of sense, but we're protecting our freedom over there, and they get hurt, and there's no way they're gonna ignore your stuff and pump you full of synthetic opium and get you hooked, and then all of a sudden realize that's bad, and then strip away your prescription and leaving you tweaking out, and then you got to go find shit elsewhere, and that leads to heroin use, and then that kind of tends to lead to homelessness and eventually suicide. And then like, there's been a lot of talk about the opioid crisis, but like, very little mentioned about who that crisis is affecting, and that's young, for the most part, young to middle-aged, straight white men with the weight of the world on their shoulders, keeping the lights on, keeping the wife happy, trying to not have the bank take your house, trying not to lose the family place, not being a failure for generations, and I don't know how you combat that, and I really don't. and this is part of the reason why I was so reluctant to talk about this, because I don't want to act like I'm giving somebody sound sage advice, and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I can just kind of tell you what I do, and I don't even know how much help that is, because I'm kind of a cyborg when it comes to some things. I don't feel some emotions the way other people feel them about certain situations. I have a way of just kind of, I don't know, shrugging shit off, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. And so, I mean, I can tell you what I do, but also I don't know if that's any good for anybody out there. So, I don't know if I'd call myself, well mentally 100%. I don't know if anybody is, but I just, the more and more I look at it, and I see some of the, like, my friends, my family, and then my own experiences, and I see how some things maybe could be avoided, and like how you get through. And I look at people, that I respect and I look up to, and see what they do in certain situations, and try to learn from that. But more than anything, you got to have a goal, you got to have a purpose, and you got to work towards that. Because if you don't have a goal and a purpose, whole lot of shit just kind of comes out meaningless, and you don't want to be in a spot where it seems like everything you do is meaningless. And it's not hard to get in that type of space, particularly when you're in this line of work. Well, and even more so if you're on the ownership end of this line of work. It's tough. And staying busy is the easy part. Like, it's nothing to just stay busy all the time and work yourself to death and never see your wife, your kids, or whatever. I don't know if you got wife or kids, but there's one thing: if you're always at work, you don't have time for a wife or kids, and even if you have them, if you're at work all the time, you don't have time for them. But by the time you come home and your kids are already asleep, and dinner's already cold, if you even got a wife that'll do that for you, I don't know. And maybe that's one thing too, is like, know your worth, I guess, fellas. Like, we've been conditioned to think that we've all married up. Everybody says, boy, they really outkick their coverage, and I think there's something to that too. But like, there's never any mention about how lucky that lady is to have a guy that's gonna bust his ass for him. Like, there's very little talk about that, and more often than not, it seems like, and I'm saying this statistically wise, because statistically more than half of all marriages end up in divorce. So we'll just be generous and say half of those guys, maybe they weren't the ones that married up. Maybe they married down. Who knows? But you're not allowed to say that shit, because we love women, except we love women so much that we don't really allow them to exist by themselves in their own space. Because now we got trans women, which are the same as women, 100%. But I don't know how many times I've seen, and I'll go out of my way not to mention any names here, but I see it over and over and over, where a guy, and some of them, people I know and friends of mine, more, not a ton, but I've seen it, where just like their ladies treat them like shit, and you wonder, like, well, what are you getting out of that? Like, and you can't just you can't put them in the place, and like, you can't bark at their lady for them. and on their behalf, because that's their lady, and it's not the right thing to do. But I don't know, maybe take a look at who you're dating. Maybe not go for the hot piece of ass, and look a little deeper to see if maybe that old gal's going to be a good wife down the road. Is she going to be a good mother to your kids? Is she, if you're running a ranch or a farm, rancher, is she the one that's going to have breakfast ready for you, so you can ride out at sunup? Is she going to bring all the lunches and the dinners out to the field during harvest time? Or is she gonna bitch at you for not getting her the newest whatever, and not providing enough for her while she spends all your money? Is she gonna bitch about how you're broke all the time, but won't lift a finger to help that situation, whether cutting back on their personal spending or getting a job to help out? It's you see that time and time again, and then you find you see another guy, maybe he marries a gal that's a little on the bigger end, maybe just not as good looking, doesn't clean up as well, but she's always got dinner on the table for him, and she's out there helping him pull a calf or whatever. Who's the winner in the long run? The guy with the hot piece of ass for a couple of years and then takes all his money, or the guy with the gal that's carrying a little extra weight and maybe got thumped with the ugly stick a couple times, but she helps him out, raises his kids to not be assholes, keeps him fed. Maybe the bigger ugly gal was the better choice, and that's obviously just a random example, but we've all seen it. We've all seen it, and it makes you wonder. Maybe you should look a little closer at who you're. First off, who you're putting your dick into. Are you willing to raise a kid with that woman? Or I don't know. Is she going to treat you right? That should be. You're supposed to be selfless and whatnot. Look out for the needs of others above yourself, and I think that rings true. I think that's a very important thing to do, is to look out for others. But the most effect you can have is on you and your family, and if your family's in bad shape, you're in bad shape. So why not put yourself in the best place to succeed, and find a lady who's willing to help you put yourself in a place to succeed instead of running you down. Pay attention to your kids. I see all this shit with the violence that's going on, like the mass shootings, and then I look around and I see just asshole kids, just nothing but asshole kids everywhere. It's a breath of fresh air when you see a kid that is well behaved, and it just makes you wanna. I have bought somebody a drink before just because their kids were polite and respectful and quiet in the restaurant. I always go, and I'm kind of strict on my kids, and I'm not ashamed of it, but I always tell them when we're in a restaurant, I say, hey, people are here to eat food and not hear you talk. So keep your voice down. We're in a restaurant. Act like you've been to town before. And I wish, one or two more people would have that same conversation with their kids before they go anywhere, let alone whether it's a restaurant or whatever. Just being respectful and just raising your kids to not be assholes. Show a little bit of respect and know how to act in a civil society. We've seen what happens when you don't make kids act right. And we all know what acting right means. It might mean a little something different to everybody, but I think we can all take a look around and see how people behave and say like that ain't right. Like that ain't the right way to do it. And well, those assholes that are making a mess of things, they started out as babies. They turned into toddlers, and then they turned into kids, and then, teenagers, young adults. And now they went from somehow being an innocent baby to an asshole adult. And somewhere along the way, shit went haywire, and now, like, you've got a shitty human being. And so how do we stop that? And the only thing you could really have a huge impact on is your own family. And so just teach your kids to not be assholes. And in the process of teaching your kid not to be an asshole, you're probably going to learn how much of an asshole you are. Because a lot of the asshole behavior, some would say most of it, that your kids pick up is learned from somebody very close to them, i.e. you. I'm not just saying vowels. I mean, i.e. means, for example, you, yourself. They're your kids. And who's, even if they didn't learn it from you, it is your responsibility, your duty as a father to correct that path. If they're acting shitty, nip it in the bud, while your discipline still means something. And that's why I can't get behind how I think they call it, like the peaceful parenting movement or whatever, where you don't ever strike your kids, and you always explain. And I get a lot of the principles behind that, but there has to be a display of consequence, and sometimes the best way to do that is just a swat on the ass. Get their attention. You don't want to, you never want to hurt your children, but you want it to sting a little bit so they remember and that came to that. Like, it breaks you up as a dad to do it, but like, it's necessary. I believe that old saying, spare the rod, and I forget the exact saying. I don't know, blanket now. I'm going to sound like an idiot, but either way, I think you got to have the discipline. You don't have to be overbearing, but I think there has to be consequences for bad behavior, and no rewarding of bad behavior. That's more than anything is the rewarding of bad behavior, and the reward being a lot of times being no punishment. It doesn't seem like much of a reward until they get punished, and then I think, if I don't get punished, I mean, that's a lot better. So it literally is a reward to not be punished. And but in order for there to be that reward, there has to be the threat of a consequence, and then not only the threat of a consequence, but the follow-through of a consequence. And I don't know, and a lot of times you're probably going to come off like the strict, overbearing, puritanical asshole that the lefties try to make out there. The conservative and the Christian, your traditional father figure, they try to make him out to be just a mean old-fashioned, stuck in his ways type of guy that just don't know anything. And that a lot of times that's what you're going to get made out to be. And well, so be it. If it keeps your kid from being an asshole, probably worth it. And then I know as I look back on some of the shit that I got so mad at my dad about, and then you look back and man, he was so right. And so I'm thankful for it now, and I know my kids will be too. But in the meantime, sometimes they're gonna hate you, or they think they hate you. But I don't know, you've got to, we so often we just give in because it's easier. And it makes your life just a little bit less complicated for a little while, but in the long run makes your life a whole lot more complicated. And like roundabout way, like I think all of this school shooting nonsense and this crazy violence that we have going on around the country a lot of it can be solved with dads being good dads, like not just being there as a dad, but being a good dad, like taking care of their family, keeping their house in order. I guarantee you that all these fucking lunatics that went out and just started shooting places up, I guarantee you they didn't have a stable home life. You can read some of the statements from the parents of these people, and they're out of their fucking mind just as much as the kid is. And it's like, no wonder your kid turned out to be a monster. Didn't have a chance. And like, just don't be that guy. It doesn't take that much to just show an active interest in your kid's life, and it's probably the most important thing you can do. If you ever get to that point where you think it's all for naught, nothing's worth it, and just might as well end it now. Just like, remember, it's not fucking about you. Like, boo-hoo. This is the point where I go back to how I was raised as a man. Is boo fucking who. Get over it. Yeah, life sucks. Life is hard. It's meant to be hard. Even the people that seem like they've got an easy life, they don't got a shit figured out. The suicide rate on rich people's just as high as it is with your farmers. Like, there's something there that just life is hard, but you've got to remember that it's not just hard for you, and you take yourself out of the equation, and it makes things far harder for your family, your wife, your kids, like, who depend on you, even if they don't admit it. Like, it doesn't make shit easier. Like, it's just the easy way out for you. And yeah, that ain't what being a man's all about. And like, I thought it was such a cool deal the other day. I know you guys know I'm a big fan of UFC. Like, I love watching a good fight. And there's this kid out of Liverpool, England, Paddy the Baddy. He's gonna be a superstar in the UFC for a while. Young kid, like 20, 24, 25, somewhere in there. Craziest thing watching him walk out. There was this, I don't know how many people was in the stadium in London, but he's a fan favorite, and it's in his home country, and he comes out and just the whole crowd's got their phones out with the flashlight and just doing a soccer chant. Oh, Paddy the Baddy. Comes out, chokes the dude out in the second round. And when he gives his speech, instead of calling out the next opponent and talking about how much of a badass he is, because, I mean, he is. He's a badass fighter. And instead, he talks about his buddy who had just killed himself, and talks about ending the stigma of men not being able to talk to each other and talk about their problems. And he ended said, I'd rather have you cry on my shoulder than go to your funeral. And I couldn't agree more with that. And I don't know what it is, but there's that wall where you're taught to just put it away, get over it, and sometimes you just can't get over it. And I don't know, so, like, I guess we got to do as guys is, like, recognizing that shit when a guy's going through something that needs to talk and doesn't want to, because we all know we don't want to. Like, that nobody wants to have the fucking talk. Nobody does. And I think, I guess long story short, I don't have an answer for the mental health deal. I don't know. I try to. There's times where life just doesn't make sense to me, and I just keep thinking that I don't know. I don't know what all the plan is. I get disillusioned on religion a lot. I'm a guy that believes there is some sort of creator. I'm a guy that, for the most part, I believe in the words of Jesus. I believe those teachings, but I'm kind of done with organized Christianity of all flavors, whether it be Catholicism, Protestant, any of it. I view that as just a grift anymore. I think there's some people with really good intentions, but more than anything, I think it's just another source of centralized power, and so I'll never mock anybody for their religious beliefs. I just whatever it is you got to do to keep you going in this world. Like, who am I to judge you on that? So I think the Mormon religion, the theology, I think is ridiculous at points. That's me personally, but anybody out there that's practicing and that's their thing, more power to you. If that's what gets you through, and if that's what makes you a better person, so be it. I'm not gonna rip you down for that. I'm not gonna put down your beliefs. I don't hold to them, but more power to you. Whatever you got to do to just make the world a little bit better. It's that little. I don't know how many of y'all were in Boy Scouts. I was in Cub Scouts for a little while, but there's that. It's the be prepared. That's the Boy Scout motto. But there's also that old saying, just you always leave a place a little better than you found it, and try to do that. Just every day, whatever situation you're in, just try to make it a little bit better than it was when you got there. Whether that be a smile and a greeting to the lady behind the counter that's ringing you up for your drink or whatever, or holding the door for somebody, picking up a piece of trash that you didn't throw there, but just because it looks bad and it doesn't need to be on the ground, pick it up. Take your shopping cart back to the shopping cart return. Don't leave it in the middle of the parking lot like an asshole. Don't be an asshole to your waitress or your waiter. And if you're a waiter, don't act entitled to a 25% tip just because you chose to work at the job where you make all your money on tips. I don't know. Just be a decent individual. I don't know. And if you ever get to feeling like there's no way out, well, there's always a way out. Maybe you don't see it, but I guarantee you there's a way out. And it doesn't involve you putting a fucking gun to your head. It doesn't. There's always another way out. Always. And even though you might not see it, somebody else will. So don't be afraid to reach out to somebody. I guess I don't know most of you, but if it gets to that point, I don't care. Send me a message. I'll answer you. I don't know if I got anything for you, but talk to somebody, because at the end of the day, it ain't about you. It's about more. It's always about something bigger than you, and so you do what you can on your end, but don't take the easy way out. It's a coward's way out, and it's a sad deal when you go to a funeral to celebrate the life of somebody who took the easy way out, and I don't. It's hard not to be angry at something like that, and you see a mess that gets left behind, and and you just wish you could have done something. So like, just don't let it get to that point. Talk to somebody. Stay busy, like work out. I said more than anything, if we learn anything from this COVID deal, is that we are not a healthy country. We are not a healthy people. Like, and most of the health issues are self-inflicted by eating a bunch of bullshit and not staying active. And I know it sucks. Like you work all day and you're tired, and even if you don't do physical labor, like, you know, you're tired. You're dealing with bullshit all day. It doesn't matter. Just go run for a half hour. It'll make you feel better in the long run. You'll lose some weight. Be easier on your joints. Maybe they won't have to saw your fucking foot off later. And you won't want to kill yourself over that either. Just take care of yourself so you don't want to kill yourself. And then guess what? You'll be able to do cool shit with your kids. You know, like when you're able to actually play baseball with them, and you know, the better shape you are, the longer you're going to be able to keep up with them all the way through high school and even college. You know, stay in shape, that way you can maintain that bond. You can continue to be the father figure they need in their lives. Or maybe they, you know, I've kind of got to step in and play the role somewhat of a father figure to my nieces, or where their father ain't around anymore, and they need that. You know, kids need a strong paternal figure in their life, and if you're not that, then who's it gonna be? If you're not there for your kids, who's gonna fill that role? And don't put it on somebody else. Take responsibility. It's your responsibility. Those are your kids. It's your family. I don't know. Just you got to remember that at the end of the day, it's your problem. Figure out how to deal with it. And if you don't know how to deal with it, find some help. There's nothing wrong with asking for a little help. And maybe you don't even find the solution, but just the talking about it helps you get through another day. You know, and even if there's no solution to it, it's a good thing, because it helps you get through another day. And whatever it is, music, podcast, listen to comedy. It's good to laugh. That's why that's why I love the dick jokes. Dicks are funny. They'll never not be funny. And it's good to laugh. Like it helps. Does so much for your mental well-being. It really does, and it's good to laugh. So find the joy in life. Like, you know, there's nothing cooler than like teaching your kids to do something cool. You know, like watch my little boy, like, who used to be just did not like to go under the water. You know, you go to the swimming pool and he was head above water all the time, and now he's like, we've got our little above ground pool and he's jumping off the ladder and doing cannonballs and he's doing twisties, and then my little girl's doing front flips and whatnot, and I'm in the pool with him having a good time, and it's fun. And you know, it was one of those days. It was really hot outside, and we could have just as easily stayed inside, and they could have put their nose in the TV and watched a bullshit show. But instead, you can spend a lazy day doing something fun. Like, it was still a lazy day. We got nothing accomplished. But we spent a hot summer afternoon in an above ground pool and had a good time. And it's like, you can look back on that and laugh at you know, when they tried to, you know, I can laugh when they tried to do a flip and landed on their back or something, you know, and it kind of hurt them for a minute, but it was funny, and, you know, we can laugh about that, and that's something we'll remember for a long time, and that helps me get through the day. Helps me get through the day knowing that, like, you guys enjoy listening to this bullshit that I put out, and I'm honestly very flattered for all of you that have asked me to cover this topic, and I hope I did it some sort of justice. Like I said, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I just tell you what I kind of do with my life, and I don't know how good of a blueprint that is, because I'm not exactly what you'd call a successful. I don't know how successful I've been in my life. I've had some, and but I've had my fair share of defeats. Probably more. I don't know if I'd say more than my fair share, but I've had my share of them for sure. And so I don't know how much good this advice would be. So I won't even say it's advice. But that's kind of how I go about. I try to stay positive, because if I don't, shit turns bleak real quick, because the world's an ugly place, but it's also a very beautiful place, and I'll always make a conscious effort to dwell on the beautiful parts of life, as opposed to the ugliness, and try to find some humor or some beauty in the ugliness. I don't know. That sounds like a bunch of hippy-dippy horse shit, but I don't know. There's something about having a positive outlook on life that it's good for the old brain, and so is sweat. One of the times I do my best thinking is when I'm training on a horse, especially a young one. And I say it's when I do my best thinking is because when I'm not thinking, I'm simply reacting to the horse and trying to convey a message, and I'm not consumed by any of the outside bullshit, because I can't be. You got to focus on the task at hand. And a lot of times, that's all it takes is just focus on the task at hand, and worry about the other stuff when you need to. But worry about being a good husband, being a good father, and being a good man before you worry about all the other bullshit. Keep your house in order, keep your family in order, and make sure you find somebody you can talk to if shit gets tough. Make sure you have somebody like that. It's very, very important. I've got a pretty short list of people that I know that no matter what, I can give them a holler, and they can lend an ear, they can lend some help, and they'll just be there when you need them. That probably shouldn't be a long list of people. Like, you always want as many of those types around as you can, but let me tell you, they're in pretty short supply. They just don't come around very often. So try and find one of those, and try to be one of those for other people too. So anyway, that's all the bullshit I got for you today. And if you tuned out, I apologize, but there's a few other conversations I'm gonna have on this topic, but I'm gonna try to hopefully have them with other people, and I think you'll enjoy it. Working on it, but anyways, that's all I got. If you guys would like to help out the show, I hate asking for money, but if you enjoy what I do and you'd like to help me out, best way to do that is to sign up either on Spotify for the premium episodes that I do, or on Patreon, patreon.com/Burnin Daylight. Either one starts at $4.99 a month. It's ad-free content. You get some bonus content, and I'm going to try to do some question and answer deals, and some just bullshit sessions with everybody who supports me. And yeah, it's the best way to help out the show. It helps me do some more stuff, improve my equipment, and help me get out to do some more cool stuff for this show. So anyways, that's the best way to do it. Spotify, sign up there, or patreon.com/Burnin Daylight. But I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I truly mean it. If you're having issues, call somebody, message somebody, talk to somebody, and if you got nobody else to talk to, shoot me a message, and I'll try not to make a habit of it. But anyhow, be good, take care of yourselves, and take care of your families too. It's important. You're an important figure in a lot of people's lives, even if you don't realize it. So I promise you, I'm done being gay for the day. So move your ass. We're burning daylight.
I know that you've been worried about my drinking, but I've been feeling alright. It's just a couple of little old stitches and my head's starting to feel just fine. And ain't nobody got time just to sit around worry about poor old me. I gotta build this house, got babies on the way, got mouths to feed. Go on and give it to me. Go on ahead and put the heavy on me. Go on ahead and put the heavy if I can bear